Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 57. We're gonna kind of go over a little bit of SAC, SWAC, East, West, and Mid-States. Oh my, tonight. And who knows, probably throw in a few other little things as we go. We're gonna wing it tonight. Why not? How was your week, Josh?
My week was pretty good. Cold, like everyone else, and then of course I ordered that heated vest, which was on a super duper deluxe sale. What was that, Thursday?
Thursday.
And it came Thursday. It got delivered while I was on to the house while I was at work. So it was sitting on the porch when I got home. And of course, by Wednesday, I think this week, it's going to be almost 70 again. So at least I have it. Exactly. Exactly.
70?
Just in time to miss the coldest day of the, so far.
I won't see 70 until like July, okay?
Well, not my fault you decided to live in the middle of no man's land, Timbuktu.
I
Arctic.
grew up here. It wasn't by choice. This is
It was by choice to stay.
To
quote the Madagascar movies, you can move it, you can move it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So
that costs money.
In their infinite wisdom to help reduce letters being scanned in the SPMs that should not be, someone made the decision that we need to start using a red marker and cross out the barcodes on the letters, which they let us know about Saturday morning, and handed everyone a brand new red marker. I didn't do it on Saturday. I have that one huge business, which will get anywhere from 1 to 5 DPS trays a day. So my end of shift duty time on Saturdays is about to get outrageous. I'm going to definitely be showing up on some report for a half hour in addition to my regular cleanup time. But James, how was your week?
Well, we were told that about the barcodes and scanning for the SPMs a couple weeks ago, and they told us that you don't do it for hold mail, and you stick this little flag, a little parcel marker in front of that mail, so that way you don't scan that mail when you go to put it in the box with your SPM. We weren't told anything about not scanning anything else or anything like that, except Tuesday when we got in, they said, if you get an SPM, just mark that you already passed it because of all the mail that got left over because of the 8 inches of snow we got here. And I had no problem getting everything out and getting done with the route that day because they told me take only the packages because I was in the office until 3 p.m. just dealing with all that mail from Saturday and Monday and Tuesday because of the holiday. So it was a pretty long day. Ended up going home at 6:30 at night that day. Next day, I took all the mail out separate. I did my Wednesday mail in one tray, had the Tuesday, weekend, Saturday mail in another tray, and then my parcels next to that. And I didn't get done until 6 o'clock. Got it all done. And finally on Thursday, I was back to normal. But unfortunately, a lot of my roads don't get plowed for at least 3 days, and it's been over a week and they still haven't plowed them. gotta love my road commission. But been able to deliver all the boxes because at least a lot of my customers care about getting their mail and clear the boxes out for me, which I'm very, very thankful for. And other than that, it's just normal week. And then it was, I think Thursday or Friday. Thursday, my supervisor decided to make a stand-up talk about getting out of the office by 10 a.m. every day. And I told him it's not right, it's wrong. And I called my ADR, and when I was on the phone with her, he actually brought out the 2011 version of the PO 603, which is the latest current print version of the PO 603, and showed me where within 20 minutes of leave time and so on, we have to be within that mark on our trip sheets. But for one, they haven't been updated. And two, it's based on mail volume, which is what our evaluations are supposed to be based off of and all this other stuff. So while I'm on the phone with my ADR, she goes, just go ahead and file a grievance. So I did. And so we'll wait and see what happens when my ADR fights that, because unfortunately we currently do not have a steward in our office. So we'll see what
Why not?
happens with that and keep you guys updated. Yeah. Everybody that listens to this should already know why not. But if not, they need to go back and listen to old episodes of the podcast. And if you haven't listened to the old episodes, why haven't you yet? So how was your week, Bill?
Oh, Tuesday was fun. They had open routes on Saturday, so mail was left over for me for Tuesday, the day after holiday. We have not gotten the talk about using red markers to blank out the barcodes, and when they do, we're going to turn around and say, I'm sorry, we're not compensated for that under the current mini mail survey. It's not contractually required for us to do that. And if they press it, we'll pull the Josh and we'll say, fine. And the shift duties will be sitting there for 45 minutes to an hour every damn day. So, this stuff they make up is just appalling. Like I said, I had to call out Friday because it was too dangerous on the roads here. Everything was a skating rink. 3 of the carriers passed 4 cars on a flat stretch approaching the post office, where 2 cars and a service truck were in the ditch for some unknown reason. Why they lost control on a flat, straight piece of road, I have no idea, but that was just, an idea of how bad it was. And then the carriers got in, and the parking lot's not plowed, it's not salted, nothing. City carriers are pushing their conveyances, to their trucks in the middle of this big ass parking lot through all this snow and ice. And, I'm surprised none of them got hurt. But remember, you got to get those scans done. You have to do it outside of the electronic fence surrounding the post office. And your safety is important, except for nobody believes it last one. So anyway, I was off Thursday. Just for a note, I've got a calcium deposit in my abdomen that's blocking blood flow to my right leg. So somewhere in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to go in for a rotor-rooter cleaning of that vein, and it'll put a stent in there too. But the doctor's trying to figure out how I got a calcium deposit there. I said, I don't know. I just live in this body. I don't maintain it. Other than that, I mean, trying to throw 2 shadow people onto routes, deliver parcels, egregious. But of course, our former ADR, who also was in the office that day, didn't say a word about it because he's still playing the game with management. This is something we've heard before about preferential treatment towards certain people, and it's alive and well in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Other than that, had yesterday off, and I've been watching some good football. Go Lions!
Woohoo!
And Kristen, how was your week?
Well, I'm going to skip over to me, and I'm going to go to Nick next, though.
Oh,
Nick, how was
sorry.
your week?
Oh, like everyone else, battling the cold and call-ins and mismanagement, as always. day after a holiday, of course, there's going to be call-ins, especially when there's 0-degree temperatures, of snow on the ground, and doing my part to help get some of this mail out on other routes, even though I'm not obligated to. I did it by choice, but just did the best we could in the circumstances. Thankfully, the weather's taking a change, and it's just going to be cold and rainy now instead of just cold and snowy. But yeah, it wasn't too bad of a week. The only bummer that we really had, we had these yellow pages come in for all the routes, just 10, 12 Gaylords, just full. Every route got yellow pages. So we had to deliver those, they had to be delivered within a week. And so, braved the weather and the cold, and the yellow pages worked nicely for some insulation inside the LLV. So,
Especially if you use a match.
yeah, even better. Thankfully, they weren't the old school thick kind that you remember from when we were kids. They were the little thinner ones, about half the size of a U line. So they weren't too bad, but they were still house to house. So got all those out. Worked a lot of extra overtime. Had a long week. But worked my J Day again this past Saturday. I don't know when I'll actually have my J Day off, but it was July, I believe, was the last one. Other than that, watched a lot of football, played a little poker last night, and ready for a new week.
Nice.
Kristen, how about you?
Now I get to chime in. It was a cold week, that's for sure. Josh shared us the link to that great, awesome sale for that heated vest. Mine won't be until Thursday. But I did get my heated socks yesterday.
I
And they
can't fathom why it's going to take so long for yours to come in.
So and it came USPS and not our Amazon contractors. So I went over to the city carrier and I said, I got a couple packages I want today, please. He's like, oh, so you want me to toss them into the water behind your house? I said, no, I want you to deliver them to me here, please. So I will tell you, the heated socks, though, that was a game changer yesterday. I was happy. Yeah, the holiday, the weather, as you know, from last week, Saturday, I was able to get maybe a dozen packages delivered. At 5:30, I got notified that I needed to stop delivering the mail and just deliver the packages so I could be back by 7. And I was just starting the back half of my route at 5-ish. So, yeah. I got back at 7:02. And by the time I cased up my tray and a half of I only had a tray of pull down left and a tray and a half of DPS. So I got the pull down case back up, and by the time I got done with all that, I worked 12.72 hours on Tuesday. Wednesday, I got it all caught up, a little over a 10-hour day, got all the mail caught up, only to come back to the office with an Everdoor Direct for Thursday. That was my week.
Well, you're just batting 1,000 this week.
I'm telling you, but actually it wasn't bad. The mail was light, packages were kind of light, and so I think I was back by 3:30. I was under evaluation Thursday and Friday, no issues there. Yesterday I was pretty close to just below right close to evaluation yesterday on my K day, but it was our flats that we hadn't had for the last few days found their way to us for Saturday. So
I want to get the scanner message where it says to, stop delivering the mail and just deliver parcels. Because when I get that, I'm going to take a picture of it and send it to my local congressperson.
Oh, it wasn't a scanner message. It was actually a text message on my cell phone.
Oh, even better.
That I ignored. I didn't respond to her, I should say.
No.
Because it went off on my watch, so I just looked at my watch and went, oh, okay. And continued to finish delivering the tray of DPS I was working out of at the time anyway. So
I'd still send it to your local congressperson. Say, look, we're no longer a mail service. We're a parcel delivery company.
I know.
Yep.
Gotta get that Amazon delivered, let me tell you. And there was a customer that called and complained before I even got back to the office. Well, she delivered a package, but where's my mail? I'm expecting a check, blah, blah, blah. And the supervisor flat out told the customer she's doing as she was instructed so she could be back by the time that she's supposed to be back. And she goes, but I'll be more than happy to wait for you if you want to come pick it up after she gets back.
That must be that new management school. Yeah.
Yeah, that supervisor told him. I'm like, wow.
Well, you know why they're hardcore on the parcels, right? Because it keeps
Uh,
their poom and impoo off their backs. Because that is tracked by everything. The mail's not. That's why they're pushing on that, is because they just don't want to get their butt chewed by their management.
that's a horrible way to live in fear of your job because the asshole above you is threatening you all the time. It
I
really
have to
is.
agree.
That's sad.
I agree. So, but
That's not a way to live.
I do have Shadow Day again on Wednesday. So we'll see how this one works out, and hopefully doesn't get an offer for clerk position the next day like the last one. Um, no, other than that, my week wasn't too bad. It was just a couple long days there because of the weather and whatnot, and I got it all taken care of, and tomorrow starts the next 6-day stretch.
After the next 6 days, on the seventh day, which January 27th, starts SAC, the South Atlantic Conference. This is the first of the area conferences. There's 5 of them. SAC is the very first one, January 27th through the 29th, which is this coming Saturday through Monday. And these are the regional conferences for the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. This is where you can get information, meet with fellow carriers, learn about what's going on. Josh, you're in the SAC area, right?
I am.
Have you been to a SAC conference?
I have not.
Okay.
It's not for a lack of wanting to. It's more of a not having the time or the affordance to be able to go. And it's just, time of year and trying to get things like bills back in order from the previous year and everything. And then they've outgrown the hotel they're in years ago. So until next year, after next year, when they're no longer obligated by contract and will be elsewhere, I figured it's not worth being in such closed quarters, if that makes sense.
SAC is for the South Atlantic region of it, which includes what states?
I'm going to say North Carolina down to Florida, including Tennessee, and I think
It's Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Alabama. When you go to these conferences, because I have the booklet pulled up on what's going on, there's going to be a lot of talk. And one of the big things that they're going to have there is they're going to actually have 3 people there from postal operations. There's going to be the vice president of retail and delivery operations, the manager of operations integration, and the representative from the southern area. So those are 3 people that are going to step up there and talk about the post office, what the rural craft does for them, and show you all the data they can from the city carrier side. They won't show you the rural carrier data. They'll show you the city carrier data. Then you'll have remarks from the NRLCA officers, and then introduction of a Q&A panel where you can actually ask questions, and then an installation of SAC officers for the next SAC conference. They also will have seminars like OWCP, Constitution and Resolutions, labor, things like that. Retirement is actually not on here in the list.
Oh, it's always on the list.
I found it. It's on the last page. It's Sunday afternoon seminars, the FERS retirement. And they also have a health benefits seminar just before it. Just checking for other things that might be of interest. But there's all kinds of things that you can go to at these conferences to give you information, not only about doing your job, but what your future could have with it as well. So that's what SAC is showing in their current program. If you're interested, it is January 27th through 29th in Atlanta, Georgia. If you're going, if you haven't registered, I think registration's closed already, if I'm not mistaken. You're also going to meet with fellow rural carriers. Now, Bill, you had said earlier today you wanted to talk about this and what goes on at these conferences. So why don't you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, from everything I've gathered about SAC is more of a informational and educational type conference. There's not the typical national convention or even some of the regional conventions, glad handing and politicking. It's still an opportunity for the current national board members to make their presence known and more or less politic for their positions. So it's a unfair advantage for them because of the fact that they're paid to travel to these things, and since they are full-time employees, they don't have to worry about getting the time off. The biggest thing about this convention, this conference, is the fact that this is one of those let's say preparatory type conferences in regards to people who are examining the retirement options as they're coming up this year. The rest of it is really well, how do I put this delicately? It's filler. Okay, that's all it is. It's filler for them to have this conference and meet the requirements of their constitution in regards to the SAC. There's not much there in regards to the social aspects unless you're meeting with people that that are of like mind. And that's one of the reasons why I said, you know what, there's not the opportunity that I would like to have in regards to attending. So with that in mind, I decided with everything going on that I would bypass this and hit the major ones where there is the opportunity to meet with people. And that would be SWAC, mid-states, even western states. The eastern states, it's up in New Hampshire at the worst time of the year. And
No, it's in Rhode Island.
It's in Rhode Island? Okay, Rhode Island?
Yes.
Even worse because, if you're blinking, you drive right through the state. And, after attending several of those, it's almost on par with SAC except for having one banquet. So
and James,
that and that really doesn't draw the people that the other conferences do, and that's what I'm more interested in, is getting more into the masses than just a little regional seminar type conference.
was it James? SAC does not have a registration. They do have it was the cutoff date for the room block reservations. So pretty much,
SAC does on-site registration when you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they do an SRO type situation.
Yep. And then in March is the Eastern States and Rhode Island, which Bill just mentioned.
You skip Southwest. That's February 16th through the 19th.
Well, he was just talking about going to SWAC, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the 16th through the 19th is that one in Edmond, Oklahoma.
And that's important to attend because of the attendance and the number of carriers those states represent. You got to remember, 1% of our craft dictates what over 100,000 of us are going to live by in regards to their decisions electing people to the national board. The delegates are less than 1% of our craft, and they're going to be representing you, the carrier, who's working, not discounting the retirees that attend, in regards to what your future is. And our future has to change because, folks, we're in a cesspool right now, and I don't foresee it getting any better under the current administration.
Yeah, and with that, voting for delegates, only 10% of the voting craft actually votes for delegates in the last national convention. 10%. So think about that when you want to look at your ballots when they come to you in the mail, because the thing about it is the only way you can make change with this stuff is to attend events, learn everything you can, be a delegate, vote for delegates, and be involved. Doesn't matter if it's at SAC, SWAC, Eastern, Western, Mid-States, it doesn't matter. If you go to your boosters, you go to your local meetings, your county meetings, the state meetings, the state convention. get involved, because the only way to make this craft better is for everybody to be involved.
Absolutely. So yeah, February is SWAC in Edmond, Oklahoma. I know registration has closed on that as of, I think it was January 2nd or 4th. I don't know, it was beginning of the month.
Yep.
Yep. March is Eastern in Rhode Island.
Yeah, they have their schedule of events already posted.
Yes, they do.
And a couple of the big ones, of course, is retirement seminar. There is an executive committeeman seminar at the same time as the first retirement seminar. So you have to pick one or the other. There is an OWCP presentation, a labor relations seminar with our Shirley Baffa and Bridget Boziak and one of the legal council members of the NRLCA. A legislative update, of course, Q&A, things like that.
And then in April is Western.
Yes, in Cripple Creek, Colorado. I was going to say Ohio. Cripple Creek, Colorado. Blasphemy. So it's funny it says Cripple Creek, Colorado for that location. It's at the Chamois Casino Hotel. I probably slaughtered the name, but they don't have an agenda yet. April 3rd through 5th. Or no, that's March 5th. Was it? Yeah, April 3rd through 5th for that. And then
May 3rd to the 5th is Mid-States. And that is going to be hosted this year in Muskegon, Michigan.
So if you want to meet most of the presenters here, that's the best place to do it.
I think Bill's going to try and come out to that one. It'd be nice to see him again before National. Yep. Myself and James will be there. In fact, that's when how I met James was actually at a Mid-State convention.
Yeah.
At Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Council Bluffs.
Yeah. I've been to Cleveland, Ohio, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Council Bluffs, Iowa, Wichita, Kansas, and this will be number 5 for me back in my home state.
It'll be number 3 for me. Yeah.
Yep, so. Registration is going on right now for that. If you are in the, if you're part of Michigan and you want to go to the Mid-States, you can go on to the MIRLCA website and actually register online for that. Otherwise, I know the registration forms and whatnot are on the NRLCA website for all of the area conferences. They have their own tab now. So for those that are still open for registration. There is a banquet, and yeah. And then usually Mid-States wraps up the area conferences, and then we move into state convention season following those.
And we talk about this because this is important for you to see how your union attendees, the people that actually attend things, think, talk, want to see how this union goes, things like that. You can have conversations with people about that stuff in breaks and after the events, things like that. There's so much you could learn outside of just the conferences alone to give you an idea of how it could be when it comes time for national delegates.
Yeah, I mean, I like the area conferences. I haven't been able to get to any of the other ones. Maybe eventually I will. It's not in the cards this year for me, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to. I probably won't be able to unless, I don't know, more than likely won't be able to. I like it because it is very informational. It's, the business portion you don't really have if you don't want to stay for it. Really, I mean, it's not something you have to stay for. It just pretty much goes for the board for the following year and whatnot, and expenses and all that stuff. But other than that, information-wise, it is a way to get a chance to approach your national board and ask them questions in person outside of a national convention. And yeah, I think it is definitely one that if you can make an area conference, please go. And you don't have to go to your area conference. If the dates and times work out better for another one and you can go, if you're in one of those states that's closer maybe to where another one's being held, even though you're part of a different area, you can register and go to a different area. You don't have to be stuck with just going to your area conference. As you know, as Bill is saying, he was looking at other ones to go to as well to reach out and talk to people and whatnot.
That, and as you were saying, is being able to get in, one-on-one time with the national board at these conferences. You probably have a better chance of that than at the national convention, because at the national convention, they're running around with duties and things that they have to attend to pretty much start to finish.
Well, that's the difference of having 200 to 300 attendees as opposed to having roughly close to 2,000 attendees.
Right.
It's a little bit more intimate setting when it comes to the number of people that are there.
And you can turn around and ask them the tough questions you want answered. Most likely they'll come back with, we'll get back to you, or we'll
I'll
have to look
into it.
into that. Yeah. But you can ask the tough questions.
Oh, and like I try to explain to people in my office, if you don't take 10 minutes a day to invest into researching your 603, the ELM, the contract, this is your job. This is your career. This is your livelihood that, you're participating in. And the more you know, the more management hates it. I mean, they come to our office and tell us we have to use a red marker to block out the barcodes. Well, you gotta believe me. I'm going to start a shit fit about that in regards to compensation, the time to do it, this, that, and if you don't stand up for yourselves, and the only way you can is with knowledge. So invest 10 minutes a day, folks. I know you have kids, you have the soccer, you have, ballet, you have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, brownies, whatever. 10 minutes a day. That's all you have to do to invest in your future and to be able to protect yourselves. Same thing with these conventions and conferences. If you have the opportunity to participate, attend them, find out what you need to know or what you want to know. Pull the people to the side and put them up against the wall and say, why is this happening? Why is management allowed to belittle us and threaten us and get away with it? But if they're doing that, you better have the grievances or the EEOs or the National Labor Relations Board forms filled out and filed before you ask the question, because the question will come back as, well, what have you done? And if you don't do anything, they can't act on it.
Exactly. Nick, have you ever thought about coming up for Mid-States?
I have, actually. I wouldn't be able to do it this year. I got a prior commitment. I do a lot of spare time in Little League Baseball as an umpire and with my local area. But I'll be doing some regional stuff at that time this year. But yes, I'm going to look to do next year's.
Awesome. Trying to think, next year's I think will probably be back in Ohio. So it tends to go alphabetically. So if I'm thinking right, I think it will probably be back in Ohio next year. Or Nebraska. Or North Dakota. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot about that. So it'll probably be in either the Dakotas or Nebraska next year. I'd have to double check. I don't have it right in front of me. But yeah, it's definitely, I know, like I said, with Mid-States, it goes around by the states in alphabetical order for the most part. So, it travels. It's kind of nice that I only have a 4-hour drive to it this year rather than
Well, where's Muskegon compared to Grand Rapids?
45 minutes west. It's right on the lake, Michigan.
All right.
Yeah, not too far from Grand Rapids.
So I can fly in and catch a Uber over, huh? Or rent a car. Probably rent a
Or
car.
just get picked
or
just get
let
picked up
us
by
know.
one of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too. I was gonna say, let us know when you're coming in, and we'll just grab you and go.
Ooh, baby.
Woohoo! Grab and go.
Sounds like you're gonna snatch me.
No. I already have my room reserved, so I'm not worried about that. I gotta send my paperwork in for my state secretary requested, but other than that, I'm all set for Mid-States. And I know some states Oh, that's right. Next year's is Illinois or Indiana. They're joining together because they got skipped during the pandemic. Thank you for that. Yeah, I remember that one now. That
Oh,
I
oh
was
yeah, the big fight that happened at last Mid States over that.
the one before that, the one that happened in Council
Yeah,
Bluffs. Yeah.
the one in Council Bluffs. Yeah, that was crazy to hear them fighting over the fact that Indiana and Illinois wanted to basically quote unquote jump the line, as some of them were saying, but they were skipped. So
Yeah, because of COVID, they got skipped over. So they're going to join forces and host 2025.
and that just gives you the mindset of some of these people. It's we've always done it this way. If they got skipped, oh well, too bad. They don't get it. We're going to keep following the same way we've been doing it for the last 30 plus years.
Now
Well,
that's
yeah.
actually that's kind of now you kind of reminded me of what I was thinking about. That I totally forgot about what I wanted to talk about, and it's not from where I wanted to go with this, but I'm gonna let Bill say what he wanted to say first before I do that.
Well, all I was going to say was to follow up on James is that, yeah, keep following the same path you've been doing for 30 years because it's worked out so well for us. And I see
Thank you.
I see the comment about the Rex, and it's like, my God, put me in office because first thing we're going to do is put the brakes on Rex.
Yeah.
It's ruined so many people's lives, even if they are on the bell curve, Don. You know, you don't live on the bell curve. 66% of our carriers lost money. Period.
We haven't had it for so good for too long.
Yes.
We've been fighting every single day. In fact, I remember listening to From A to Arbitration a couple weeks ago. He was reading word for word what's going on now in the city side, and the same stuff's happening to us. He was reading it from articles from the 1970s. The same exact words management was using, the same exact words the unions are using, were written in the 1970s. So think about how long ago that was to today. And they're still talking the exact same way, doing the same exact things and expecting different results. What do they call it when you do the same exact thing but expect different results?
Isn't that the definition of insanity?
Yep.
Or union leadership. Take your pick.
Okay, so what I wanted to touch on real quick now that I was triggered and remembered what I wanted to talk about. Thank you, James.
Uh-oh, she's triggered.
It was a memory trigger, not a trigger. So what I wanted to mention, and it especially kind of runs down to the three of us that have said that we're going to step up and run for national office. For the whole entire history of people running for office, there's that unspoken rule of how you have to follow this chain to make it up to the top. And the reason why I say it's an unspoken, unwritten rule, because in our national constitution, it flat out says that you just have to be a member in good standing for 3 years to run for national board, and you cannot be a retiree and elected to the board. So there's two different things there. But, however, the way of thinking that has happened throughout the decades is that you need to move your way up through the steward system and then go up to start as executive committeeman and sit your at least a 4-year term, if not more than 1 4-year term, before you run for another office and then move your way all the way up. How well has that worked out for us, people?
Not well at all.
Hey, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's all I'm saying.
There are good people in the system. There
There
good
are
people doing the
exceptionally
system.
great people in the system, and I'm not downing on them at all. I mean, there are some really good people. We have some decent, good national board people that hold positions on the national board. But
name 3.
I could probably name 2.
We can. We're not gonna call them out on here for right now.
No, I'm not gonna name names, but I'm just
Damn. I tried to bait
What?
you.
We'll let them assume who they are because we know that they're listening to this podcast every single time we post an episode. So
Yes, the process
we'll let
seems to
them.
remove people from the ground level for too long. That's why we are where we are today. And I have to agree with that. When you have been in a position as a full-time union employee and have not carried a route, and you're on 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years of not having carried a route, when you have those of us, and I see how much this job has changed in the 9 years that I've been with the post office. But if you haven't carried a route, you haven't been in an office carrying a route, you don't see those firsthand. You can't relate. Yes, you may hear about it from family members, spouses, friends, whatever, but that's not, hearing about it is not the same as experiencing it firsthand. And it's at that point now where time is, some of these bigger seats should be filled by people that have had their boots on the ground and have ran that route prior to leaving to drive to National Convention. Because that tends to be one of the most common questions is, when was the last time that you ran your mail route? And I remember standing up and saying, and this was on what, Thursday at caucus. I remember saying, yeah, I ran my route on Saturday, got home, packed a car, and drove 27 hours to Florida.
Or even just went out and seen how the decisions you're making as a national board member are affecting normal carriers, not just the people you know who are going to sugarcoat it for you, but every craft member out there. Pick any craft member out there that you don't know, go observe them for a day, see how your decisions are affecting them. Because what's going on down here needs to be known at the national level. And if you're not coming down to this level to see what's going on, you're ignorant of the facts.
I mean, and I've said this before in previous podcasts, when you're sitting in a national convention and you have carriers at the microphone in tears, begging for some sort of help because of what is going on in their office, why do we have why does that have to happen at all? Why do they have to be on the floor in front of 2,000 people in tears because of how they're getting treated by their managers? And they've reached out to everybody possible, and now here they are on the floor begging for mercy, literally, because of what's going on in their offices. Am I right, Bill?
That lady just about pulled at my heartstrings, and I'll bet you nothing got done or resolved to her satisfaction. Not that they didn't try, but they're not concerned with us. They're concerned with getting their retirement. That's all the national board is concerned about, getting their retirement.
You know,
I said it, and don't edit that.
You know,
No,
for me, and I said this before, if I was to be if I was elected to national board, it's not a way to retirement for me. I wouldn't want to be up there until I retired. When I retire, I want to retire from my route. I don't want to retire from a board position out of touch with what's going on in the real world.
yeah, this is a choice we're making that is going to be a sacrifice for all of us. Because not only do we have to give up our routes to be a national officer, which, at least for some of us, maybe all of us, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm going to miss my customers. I love my customers. They
I
take
love
good
mine
care of
too.
me out there, and I have to turn around and let that be run by my sub and be a national board officer. And this doesn't benefit my sub either, because even though he gets the new designation as a hold down on that route, he still doesn't get the retirement benefits and things like that the people who have been running these board members' routes for 17 plus years have not gotten either. Now, granted, I put the resolution in to get them to career status so they can earn that retirement, but whether we get that from our current national board during contract negotiations or not is up to question. So when this happens, when people get elected to the national board, you're not only affecting yourself and your family, the people you love and care about, you're also affecting the people in your office, you're affecting the subs in your office, and everybody else involved in that, including your union stewards that are involved there that have to deal with fighting for the things in that office. Everybody's involved in that, even your management, especially if you're in offices that are shorthanded, because now they're another person short. They can't actually put a new person on that route to cover it. So it's a big sacrifice for somebody to take this step, but it takes a lot of passion to get there. And you have 3 people right here, right now, that have that passion to help this craft so much with all that risk involved.
And you're right. The
Passionate.
customers, you know, even with just my drop day, I get phone calls and texts from my customers because they know I'm not on there, and it really hurts the living shit out of me that the subs don't pay attention or don't care. I have a PTF that does my route every once in a while, and the guy's done 3 hours under evaluation, and then I'll come back and pick up 80 to 100 pieces of mail that shouldn't be in boxes, wrong addresses, wrong names, wrong. And God help it if there's box holders, because for some reason he's allowed to leave them, and I can discuss that off the air, but not on the air. And yet other people are reprimanded for leaving a pre-sorted standard box holder that they just got that morning. You know, it goes back to the management's technique, styles, lack of education, whatever you want to call it, disparity of treatment, favoritism, nepotism. It just galls me that everybody isn't treated equally. We're not red, white, black, green, purple. We're all blue, and we all ought to be treated the same.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's, we're all one, and things need to change. We need a change. I mean, as coming in as a new regular with 20 more years to go, I want to make sure I still have what I was looking forward to having when I went regular to retire on. That's the one thing. It scares me to see what the potential could happen in the future if there isn't change. It really does.
And just so that our listeners know, I've stayed on longer because of my wife's being 6 years younger than me. I can afford to go to these conferences and conventions, and I can afford to retire, and I haven't because, I want to make a change, and it'll make a change in my life to be a national officer, in regards to seeing my grandchildren, in regards to seeing my children. But I think that this craft is worth it, and I think that the people who go out there and put their blood, sweat, and tears into doing a good job every day, and sometimes at the risk of their own health and well-being, I think that's worth it.
I agree.
Otherwise I could have bailed like Ronnie, but I believe in this craft, and I want to make the union worthy of the craft.
We want a leadership of the craft, by the craft, and for the craft, because that is what a union is supposed to be. It is supposed to be about the people that are out there doing the job that the union is protecting. It's not about whether or not you get a new TV or a new bed set that costs the NRLCA a lot of money. It's about what's best for the craft itself. Because at the end of the day, the only people that matter to leadership right now are the people who pay the bills. They don't use that money for arbitrations. They don't use that money for anything else because they try to say they're scared of arbitration. No, they just want that money still in the coffer. We have arbitration still sitting from 2018 that I know about that still hasn't been resolved. It's about time that stuff gets done because we can't afford to wait. We need a resolution on the carriers that have not been paid. They need compensation for the late fees and late charges they got on their bills, the overdraft fees on their accounts, things like that. They need remuneration for that, and we can't wait 6, 8, 10 years for the step 4 to finally get resolved or finally go to arbitration. We need our carriers taken care of first and foremost, not the leadership, the carriers.
I completely agree. And like I said, it's a huge sacrifice, especially for those, us that still have school age children to even consider running. And, this will be my second time running. I ran as an RCA. I took this past year and didn't run this year just because of personal reasons. I have been thinking off and on if I was actually going to go through with it and run with the personal stuff going on at home. But I've been told, Mom, if I was, she goes, if the tables were turned, she goes, I'd still go because you need to go. So, and you need to do this. So yeah, she knows, that this is my passion as well. And like I said, and missing the people on our routes. And I'm going to touch on this before we wind it down for the night. I kind of forgot about it in my week, but it reminded me when we were talking about our love for our customers and our routes. I have 5 hardships on my route. And my second hardship, I pulled up Wednesday. It was trash day. And my poor woman, and I'm like, I pull, sweet woman. She's out there in front of her garage with the snow shovel, holding onto her walker with one hand, trying to flip the snow and the little bit of ice so she can pull her car out and take her garbage to the curb. I pull in, I see her, I grab her mail, I walk it up to her, and I said, let me take care of this for you. And I got that snow and ice shoveled out. It took me less than 30 seconds to get that cleared off. And I helped her with her garbage. She's just a single woman, her and her dog, so all her normal garbage, daily household stuff's just put in like grocery bags, and she puts it out in the garage. And I emptied out that trash can into the sanitation department's garbage bag, and I said, I'll drop this at the curb for you as I'm leaving your driveway. And that totally made her day. And you know what? It made mine too, because I was able to help her. My customers are that important to me. I'm going to take that 30 seconds to shovel and drop a bag of garbage at the curb for them, because I know it's a struggle for them to even be able to get out of the house to do that. And that possibly, and knowing that all that stuff that you give up potentially for national board or a full-time union position in general, I mean, that's a lot. We do this job because we love what we do. We love serving our customers. We love our routes. And it is a great consideration for us to say, okay, you know what? I love this so much. I want it to be better for the future. So I'm going to do this and try and make it better for the future for everybody in the craft. All right.
And
I think we should
what gets me about this whole thing is that we go out and do, I'll say, an exceptional job through the weather, the conditions, the lack of support from management, the belittlement by management, the hostile work environment. We go out and do an excellent job every day for the most part. The only thing the national board has to do is to look out for our interests, and they're not doing it. That's the only thing they have to do. So why aren't they accountable?
And like Kristen said, I have a customer on my route that I actually saved the life on when I was on the fire department. And I am glad to say that after 6 years, she's still going strong. And seeing her every day is one of the highlights of my route. I have another customer I helped pick up off the ground when they fell over and they couldn't get up. I helped them up. Little things like that we do aside from our normal duties is why we do this job. Yeah. Helping others, whether it's our customers or our fellow craft members, is what we do. And that's all we're going to do is help our fellow craft members by running for these positions.
So I think we're going to kind of wind it down tonight, guys, before we get even a little extra over passionate.
Get down into that rabbit hole and approach the mastodon in the room.
Yeah, let's not do that tonight.
Mastodon, get it? Get it?
I get it. I get it.
But everybody says elephant in the room, and a mastodon is an elephant. So
Yes, it's an extinct elephant.
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start with Nick tonight. You got anything final to say? I know you haven't gotten much in on tonight with us, but if there's anything else you want to add or say, go right
Oh,
ahead, dear.
sure. Yeah, no, I've done a lot of head nodding tonight. Just, I agree with 100%. If a change is not made within our union representation, we are going to crumble. You can do or say what you want about decertification. I understand how some people feel about decertifying our union and how they want to move that forward. I could go on and on about go down that rabbit hole, like you said, for hours. But it's going to do nothing unless everyone is involved. It won't. Nothing will be changed. You're still going to have career politicians in these union positions unless you do something about it, like Bill and James and Kristen are doing right now, or attempting to do. It starts with you. The union is not an individual; it is a union. It's everyone. Everyone has to be involved everywhere, and you got to remember that take your time and like you said, 10 minutes a day is all it takes. Open a piece of the contract, read it over, realize that, and your station or your district has been doing something wrong, completely wrong the whole time that you've been there. Maybe you've been there a year or two or 20 years, and you just found out that you've been doing something completely backwards against the contract that you shouldn't be doing. Rectify it. But other than that, everyone have a good week. Hopefully it'll get warmer in your area, and look forward to next week.
Thank you, Nick. Josh?
Well, I don't know how widespread the warm up is, but it's still cold out there. I know, like I said at the beginning, by midweek it's supposed to be almost 70 degrees here, but it's supposed to rain from like Wednesday through Sunday. So still be careful out there. Be safe. Be extra vigilant while you're out there on the route. Watch where you're stepping. Look out for ice patches. Don't get yourself overwhelmed. If you do, take a step back. Take a deep breath and step back in. Have a good week, and we'll catch you next time.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from all of this is participation, participation, participation. We need as many carriers involved as possible, whether it's sharing this podcast with everybody so they get motivated, whether it's going over onto the Facebook groups that we have, whether it's the podcast Facebook group or it's the Rural Mail Carriers United. Shameless plug, there are breakdowns of the articles by our national leadership where you can see what their opinions are and then what my opinion is on what they said. But mainly it's about getting this union to where the craft needs it to be. It's not what the leadership wants, it's what the craft needs that is the most important aspect of this. And no matter what, no matter how hard it gets out there, no matter how bad things look, just remember, we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Bill?
I have to say, I'm hopeful because that's why I'm still in this game. Okay. And I'm not in it for myself. I'm in it for everybody in this union. I'll correct that. I'm in it for everybody in the craft because there are non-union members that need protection too. Because once they step on people, whether they're union or not, they'll try to step on everybody. Don't forget that. Once they mistreat one person in your office, you're next. That's why I say take 10 minutes a day, study the contract, the ELM, the 603, anything you can get your hands on related to your job. Because if you don't protect the weakest in your office, it'll start to landslide, come down and envelop you. They won't stop with just the weakest. They'll force everybody. The asinine red marker for barcodes. I would love to have that in my office. Like I said, I would start a shitstorm so bad they thought that they were in the middle of a cesspool when it blew up. We're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to tolerate POOMs or MPOOs, whatever you call them, your district management, coming up with these arcane rules that they make up by the seat of their pants. If they have something, ask for it in writing. If they don't have anything, grieve it. Like I say, file, 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 and then file and smile, because you need to defend yourself and others from mistreatment, abuse, hostile work environment, and intimidation from a group of individuals, aka management, who are acting out of fear for their own position. So stand up for yourselves, stand up for others. Make this union stronger at the smallest office to the largest office. If we band together, we can defeat management, and we can get a national board that will truly represent the craft, all the craft. And as always, with the weather still being bad in certain parts of this country, whether it be ice or wind or cold, please go out there, do your job as safely as possible. Don't take any unnecessary risk. Make sure you get home to your loved ones, because you are the most important delivery of the day. God bless you.
Thank you, guys, each and every one of you. On that note, they summed it up. I really don't have anything else to add on that other than stay safe this week. I know some parts are starting to warm up. This Arctic air has kind of lifted a little bit. I know we're supposed to get up into the mid to high 30s, heat wave for me, but it's going to rain on top of this snow and ice that we've already got, so that makes it for some really hazardous conditions. So everybody stay safe out there, and we will see you next week.
I was tapping the button, but it wasn't doing anything.